Now, video has surfaced online allegedly showing a US service member taking a shot at a passing truck in Afghanistan. The incident was seen among a number of clips edited together, which were uploaded and later deleted by an anonymous user. This helmet camera footage shows a person firing from a military vehicle at the cab of a truck it was passing. It's not known whether anybody in the truck was injured. The action, if confirmed, might violate military rules of engagement and hamper the US-Afghan alliance. The video is believed to have been filmed last year during an anti-ISIL operation in eastern Afghan province. According to the US Central Command, an investigation into the case is underway. We've requested further comment and we'll bring you updates as soon as we get them. OK, well, let's cross live to our second guest of the day now, Mr. Charles Shoebridge, a security expert and former UK counter-terrorism intelligence officer. Thank you for coming on the programme, Mr. Shoebridge. Now, though unconfirmed at this point, could those actions by the US servicemen be justified in any way?
Well, the short answer to that is yes, they could be, but that doesn't mean to say they are justified. I speak as a former army officer as well, of course, so I've actually taken part in military operations. Of course, you have to look at what the context of this is. This isn't to defend what's happened here. It appears indefensible, but this is a 9-second clip, and we have to acknowledge that we don't know what happened before this video clip, and we don't know what happened afterwards. It's difficult to see what could justify this, just what appears to be an act of bravado, an act of an assault, really, on this person who's driving this truck. But it may be, conceivably, for example, this truck perhaps even inadvertently went through a checkpoint, for example, and this is one way to bring that vehicle to a halt. We just don't know without more, but certainly on the face of it, it appears to be just a very casual disregard of the feelings and indeed the safety of people involved in countries such as Afghanistan, and we've seen it elsewhere, of course, that plays right into the hands of groups such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and of course the Taliban, who want to rid their countries, in this case Afghanistan, of American troops. So it's a propaganda, information warfare catastrophe, if you like, for the US, regardless of the circumstances. And I should add, of course, that from a technical perspective, when you slow down the video here, you can see that it's very likely that this was a shotgun that was being used, and it was being used to fire quite probably non-lethal rounds, that's to say either like rubber pellets or plastic pellets, something like that. But nonetheless, extremely dangerous and extremely foolhardy act to undertake.
If confirmed, what sort of impact do you think such an incident could have on US-Afghan ties?
Well, it just demonstrates, as we saw so often in Iraq, with far more. We don't know the outcome of this video in terms of what the effect on the truck driver was. He may have crashed later on. He may have even never known that actually he was being opened fire on from the passing US truck. He could have thought perhaps a stone was kicked up and smashed his window. But unfortunately, the situation is that I think that the fact in this case, for example, you say, or we suspect that this video was shot on operations in Afghanistan. It's surprising, I think, to anybody that's taken part in these kind of operations, that this soldier would even have his weapon loaded with what is effectively an anti-riot ammunition, because it would be useless if that against Taliban or ISIS attacking them. And that suggests, of course, that this ammunition has been loaded into this weapon specifically to target vehicles and Afghans in this way. And that in turn might suggest that this is far more common occurrence than this one video would suggest. And that means that there are really problems, as we know, as we saw in Iraq, for example, especially with private military contractors. Live lethal ammunition was being used just against Iraqi civilians in a very similar way. And the effect on relationships with the local population and the governors of those populations, and of course the intelligence agencies of the Afghan state and so on, is catastrophic. Because Americans, of course, the American troops say that they are in this country to protect the Afghan population and to they're in their interest in advancing democracy and so on. All of the various reasons that are put out why American troops are in these countries. But for propaganda purposes, this is a gift to ISIS, the Taliban and so on, who would say that actually Americans are there as oppressive conquerors and occupiers and don't have the interests of the local population at heart. And of course you'd point out and people would say, would this soldier be happy if that had been done to his father or his brother driving a truck in the United States? And of course, the answer to that is obvious.
Charles Shoebridge, security expert and former UK counter-terrorism intelligence officer, thank you for your time.